You took a swipe at the religious leaders and the religious circles, and recently we've had calls from the religious circles for Obi and the Labour Party to back down and accept the presidential election as result as the will of God. What role has religion actually plays in this, in being culpable as far as all these processes concerned?
You see, I was born a Christian. The way I've learned to worship God is as a Christian, but I'm not a religious person. I used to be a regular church person, but I've come to understand that religion is the basis of our putrefaction as a people. We are the way we are because we are religious. And those who call themselves religious rulers in Nigeria are no different from Nigerian politicians. In fact, they are in bed with Nigerian politicians, whether they are pastors or imams. The Bible is very categorical. It says that by their fruits you shall know them. What are the fruits of the Christian leaders or rulers? Because they don't lead anyone, they are rulers. The first thing that you expect of a Christian is respect for the sanctity of truth. God is truth. There is no truth within which you will not find God. If the thing is true, then it endures in God. God is inside that thing. The one thing you will not find in the mouth of our religious rulers is the truth. In the midst of all the evil that has been perpetrated in the last 2 weeks, how many religious rulers have you heard coming out in Lagos State to say that, please stop all this division on account of tribe? How many of them? Not one. They've been conveniently quiet. Quiet. They never see anything wrong in what government is doing, and yet our country is going to blazes, whether they are Muslims or whether they are Christians. I can speak to the Christian faith because that is where I belong, and I can tell you without, okay, I must hesitate because I know at least one or two men of God, but beyond those ones, really, somebody like Pastor Sam Ayedomo, for instance, he regularly provides this platform for the truth to be disseminated. And I know there are a few others like that. But really, think about it. The state is going to the dogs and has been going to the dogs forever. How many of them have ever had anything to say? So as far as religion is concerned with the situation of Nigeria, I think Nigeria is where you see the true exposition of what religion is intended to do. Go to the root word, religare. What does it mean? It means to bind. When you find dictionaries that have pictures, you'll find a picture of a small bird, probably a finch, and it has its wings tied with bows. Religion is meant to constrain your imagination. The imagination is the seat of creativity. When you constrain a man's imagination, you enslave him. What religion does is to prescribe how you live. It's meant to be a guide to spirituality. But in Nigeria, both the imams and the pastors have robbed it of the content of his capacity to lead you to God. It's meant in Nigeria to lead you into bondage so that you might be exploited both by the pastors and imams and their clients, the political class. So religion in Nigeria has come to become a tool of control, both for the state and for the practitioners, especially the religious rulers. Afan Sanra, Omojonru. That's the way it is. That's why you find this undue emphasis on money, prosperity. Nobody is talking about truth and accountability.
Let me also take you up on this. The LP presidential candidate, in a recent interview, while commenting about the election, said he will be contesting he didn't contest the outcome of the election process, but he's contesting the process that battered that outcome. There was a lot of hues and cries. In fact, another presidential candidate had to call him out. That's Moyele Sowore, saying that their uncle Tinubu carried out election haste of the worst order, while Peter Obi, however, still loved him as a fatherly figure. So in a rigged manner, he does not believe in challenging the outcome, but just want to challenge the process. I mean, this became a heated argument to the extent that they eventually had to recant at some point in time. What's your take on this?
See, my friend Yele always imagined that everybody will speak in his own language. Potatoes, potato. My language is not necessarily going to be the language of the next man. Peter will be... I'm going to be laughing a lot at my friends in the revolutionary movement in a few days or weeks or months as events unfold. Sometimes the revolutionary will not come wearing beret. He would have no learning to quote. He would have none of those. He would only have paradigms to shift. Where the paradigms the person seeks to shift tallies with your own strategic objectives, you must find convergence. Now, a man comes out in this jungle where we all live, this country, this jungle, and he says to you, trace a kobo of government money into my coffers, and I'll step out of the race. Okay, let's say we, who do not have access to those kind of channels, couldn't do it. You think Bola Tinubu couldn't have done so? None of the many people who are obviously against his candidacy couldn't have found something to confront him with? They couldn't. That's another ball game. So that the man said he was challenging the process, not the outcome. That's a matter of semantics. It's a matter of semantics. If I have attacked the foundation of a lie, what's the purpose of dealing with the lie? Why am I wasting my time? I've exposed the foundation. If I have shown that the process is fraudulent, how can the outcome be anything different? Can you swim through what I have proven to be a sewer and claim that the white garment, or at least what is meant to be white, is white? It cannot be white anymore because I have proven that you swam through the sewer. So that one is potatoes. Yele is just being Yele, and Peter Obi is Peter Obi. They are not the same persons, but if they will look a little closer, they might just find that this person is actually not the person they believed him to be. We're done with elections, and we should begin to focus on larger issues now.
Talking about focusing on larger issues, if in the unfortunate event of an INEC or Tinubu managing to retain his mandate, how will Nigerians cope having been subjected to these vagaries of persons?
I am big on non-violence, but I am not big on turning the other cheek. There is only so far that you can push. If Nigeria were to find itself in the unfortunate situation where Bola Ahmed Tinubu becomes the president of Nigeria, a lot of things would happen. A lot of people would have their illusions punctured. It will be an interesting spectacle to behold. The punctures of illusions, especially the redentists who are justifying evil because they believe that there is something to be gained by becoming complicit in evil. When it is their turn, now opportunity. When it is another person, now corruption. It's unfortunate, but the truth is constant, and it will come back to bite those ones in the ass. So I'll be looking at those ones. The average Nigerian should expect a lot of pains. This is not even just because it is Tinubu. Whoever is coming already has a mess to contend with. The problem with a Tinubu presidency is a lack of legitimacy that will come with it. Yeah. A government that is lacking in legitimacy, that has to demand that people pay extortionate levels of levies and taxes whilst pretending one of the most sybaritic ruining crass to be found anywhere in the world. You find people who are busy perfecting the system by which they receive compensations. These are the ruining crowds now. Whether they are legislators, whether they are councillors, local government chairmen, whatever they might be, they are constantly working to make sure that their own feeding trough is well stocked. But the people who have to provide the resources, they are becoming increasingly impoverished. They are going to remove subsidy from fuel. They are going to increase electricity tariff. You're going to be tightening up because we really can't afford a lot of things that we're buying. We're living on credit as a people. So whoever is coming already has a mess to contend with. If it is now somebody who is manifestly unfit for the job, I hate to imagine what is coming to Nigerians. But I do know that perhaps, maybe, just maybe, is coming, God forbid, might help to consecrate people's mind, because all the illusions should disappear at that time.
There's been a major shift in the electoral configuration of the country, and no doubt about it, considering the fact that the myth about the dominance of the political landscape by both the PDP and the APC can no longer, be the same again, and considering the fact that Labour Party virtually divide the rule of thumb with little or no organizational structures across the country, and they changed the political landscape. What does this portend for the future of politics in this country?
A lot. But before we talk about the future, we must deal with the immediate. If the people are forced to accept a corrupt, evil outcome, confidence is lost in the electoral process. If confidence is lost in the electoral process, you must also understand that given the preponderance of evidence that I am confident we are able to lead before the tribunal, the confidence that has already been eroded in the judiciary would have also been further destroyed, because the judiciary would have to, just the way it did, just the way the Supreme Court has done and conducted itself in relation to the Naira swap, to Machina and Lawan, in relation to
the Senate President
Akpabio, in relation to Imo State Governor Uzodinma. If it keeps up, if it brings a decision as debauched as any of those, it would merely confirm what they like. I have said it, and I'm on record as saying clearly that our Supreme Court is incapable of delivering justice. I said that without any hesitation. It will now be up to it and the public to determine on the preponderance of evidence that will be placed before it, whether it is confirming his inability to carry out justice. But they're very clear. Justice must not only be done, it must be seen to have been done. So it is up to what the electoral system delivers on Saturday, what the judicial system delivers on Saturday, what the armed forces and the police delivers, because it's a systemic thing. If they deliver as they should, which they did not do on the 25th, what you will find happening is that the system will deploy hatred as it just deployed it in Lagos State, as it deployed it that I just reported to you about the market that was burnt in Maiduguri. We have video. I'm not talking off chat. We have video. It burnt for 3 days because Zulum was beating black and blue in Maiduguri. And yet, what was recorded for Peter will be there. So those are the kind of things that we saw across the country. So if they continue along that path of undermining the capacity of the system to deliver changes, what should have emerged as a movement for change might become something else with time. Because if you have denied hope, you have closed the road to an electoral change. A person who has been told that he can't have electoral change, the courts will not give him justice, you are telling the person to find alternative means for change. You legitimize the voice of the separatists in the midst of that, because the separatists will then look at the like of us who have been begging them, come into the electoral process, join the democratic system, so that what you are demanding by force of arms, by agitation, we might get it politically if we have the right leadership in place that understands the need to do these things we are agitating for. So if the system closes off the road to change, what it does is that it legitimizes the voices of those who had always insisted that the system is incapable of change and must be destroyed for anything to happen.
History, they say, has a way of repeating itself. The first time as a tragedy. You, in a recent tweet you made on your Twitter handle, you said that history does rhyme, and I swear, quoting your quotes, that we've been here before. Tinubu is Abacha, Buhari is Babangida, and Obi is Abiola.
Yes.
It was a tragedy to behold in 1993. Not exactly tragic comedic in its current iteration, but frustratingly farcical in the extreme. Could you clarify this, man?
Let me explain something. It used to be that like 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago, when a thought comes to my mind, I'll sit down and I'll write a long essay explaining the thought so that others might read and come to understand that I am dealing with an intellectually indolent generation. Their capacity to exercise their God-given brain has been hampered by the weaponized ignorance that the system had unleashed on 2 generations of Nigerians. So I stopped bothering myself to write a long treatise. I decided to focus more on writing books. If I write something you don't like, you go and write your own book and challenge what I have said. So I stopped writing long pieces and I started doing small epigrams, such as the one that you just quoted. And to dissect it clearly, the thing is that history does rhyme. What it does is that the first time it would come as a tragedy. People will shout, ha, ooh, hee, ha. And then by the time it's coming along again, it's usually a farce. Because you've seen it before and it's not really as shocking. Sometimes it's even laughable. But our situation, it's funny because what I saw was this. The commonality between June 12, 1993 and 25th of February this year is essentially about the truncation of the will of the people. In June 12, it had concretized into a mandate that was already known. This time around, it had not concretized because it had not been announced. Not only had it not been announced, a lot had been thrown up in the air and into doubt. So without the benefit of what I know as a member of the Obi campaign, I do not expect anyone else to buy what I had said about. In fact, I didn't even allude to him having won a clear mandate. What I simply said was, Obi is Abiola. Why is Obi? How is Obi Abiola? Obi is the one that ignited the passion of the underdogs. Every Nigerian that believed himself to have been disadvantaged, who was engaged in the political process to a very large extent. If I say every, I'll be discounting my brother Yele. So it will not be clear or right to say every. But the majority of disadvantaged Nigerians, overwhelming majority of them, bought into the obedient movement and bought into the hope for change. So the person in that race that signified hope, whether my orange beretted fiends like it or not, reality is that that was the person in the race that was seen clearly in the race as representing the hope and aspiration for a better tomorrow. So, in saying that Abiola and Obi is Abiola, I am completely correct and I stand by what I said. When I said Tinubu is Abacha, he is an usurper of the people's will. That is the parallel. He has a stolen mandate on him. Nobody has given him that mandate. He stole it. He bought it. He snatched it. He killed for it, literally. Because nobody gave him that mandate. It is a procured mandate. That is the similarity between Abacha and Abiola and Tinubu, and it's unfortunate, and it's actually part of why I said, well, I think I described it as, was it a try? I said it couldn't.
Yes.
I said something about, anyway, key thing is this. Tinubu has strived over the years to be seen as Abiola's alter ego, like the reemergence of Abiola. He has, in fact, at some point, sought to appropriate hope as his mantra. But the tragedy is that Abiola is the man that Bola Ahmed Tinubu can never be. No matter what else anyone might have to say about Abiola, he wasn't a criminal. Yeah. He wasn't a debauched human being. We knew who his father and mother were. We knew what schools he attended. He has provenance. His children are known. We know his history. We know where he came from. To liken Bola Ahmed Tinubu to Abiola is a travesty. In fact, it insults the memory of Abiola to liken Bola Ahmed Tinubu to him. This is the procurer of a stolen mandate. The only parallel in Nigerian history is Abacha. And when I likened this doddering one that is about to leave now, Buhari, when I liken him to Babangida, it's exactly the same. He's on his way out. He is irrelevant. His time is done. He superintended a process that could have delivered historical change, but he elected with his own hand to become party to the criminality of the man who has procured the mandate fraudulently today. It's amazing that the same man who sat down to kill people, he was the head of state, executing them by Ojulope and Oji, Bartholomew and all those two. The same man for drug is the same man that is today assisting a man who has been indicted for laundering drug funds. Even if that is all it is, Muhammadu Buhari is the one that has superintended a stolen mandate for look, it's a travesty of history.
Let me get your reaction on this. Some have said that with the Labour Party coming forward, questions are being asked as to where it hoped to make up for the shortfall in its votes tally. The Labour Party's grievances is focused on Lagos, which nevertheless won by several thousands of votes. What should happen in most of the northern states where it not only lost, but couldn't possibly make up to 25% of the votes cast? Your take?
You know, I'm happy you said some people said. Let me explain something to you. Some people are working very hard. You know, they said Labour Party, there were 3 or 4 people, 4 children in a room tweeting. That was what the Labour Party was. Let me explain. The APC, Bola Ahmed Tinubu's propaganda machinery, is a well-oiled one. Yeah. It has newspaper editors, it has big men living in posh neighborhoods, spending God knows how many billions yearly to feed the people all kind of lies. The man owns a media empire. That is after he was finished purchasing so-called independent media. So they craft narratives, they push it out there so that the people will be discussing those narratives instead of the truth and the facts. One, you said despite the fact that we won in Lagos. Yes, we won in Lagos, but we won in Lagos by far more than has been recorded or announced by INEC. We know as a fact that Bola Tinubu did not make 20% of Lagos vote. As a fact, they would prefer to create a narrative that suggests that it was the Igbos in Lagos that made him lose Lagos. That's a lie. That's one that they are bringing. There were several frauds that were perpetrated in Lagos State. One, they reduced the voter numbers. Two, they allocated votes and ignored the real result. But it's not only in Lagos that we are contesting the result. I just told you about Maiduguri, where a market was burnt. I just told you about Bauchi, where they just simply ignored the reality on the ground. I just told you about Plateau. I just told you about Benue. I spoke to you about Rivers. We talked about Edo. We spoke about Delta. So whilst they will prefer their own narrative, that I should be one in Lagos, be thinking that they can hide behind that idiocy. Yes, he won in Lagos, and he didn't just win in Lagos. Peter Obi whooped Bola Tinubu's ass in Lagos. It was a referendum on his disastrous reign. And the facts are clear. So all these ones that they are busy genuflecting around and telling all sorts of lies as they are genuflecting as if it's some tribal issue is nonsense. Are contesting the results across the length and breadth of Nigeria, not just in Lagos State, across the length and breadth. When they talk about where is it going to make up the vote, we are not manufacturing votes now. If we are claiming that we have won, it's a matter of empirical evidence. Not be so, no problem. When the time comes, we'll present our evidence before the court. Nigerians would have the benefit of seeing the evidence. Abi? INEC is the one that is running away from his shadows. Tinubu is the one that is busy creating narratives to obfuscate the issues. Our own sole interest is in ensuring that the truth comes out, and it will.
Finally, because the time is fast spent, what will you want to say to Nigerians as March 18 governorship elections are at hand?
Let me say this. The system would prefer that you walk away. The system would prefer that you simply walked away. But in walking away, you will be validating your own enslavement. We have two choices, and I believe I preached a message. I call it preaching now because the one we've wailed for years. I called it your PVC or your gun. And this was when I was urging people to go and get their PVC so that they might vote. We did that on the 25th, and INEC did what he has done, and our politicians have also done what they have done. But what they have done has exposed them, not just to the international community. I don't care about those ones. To you, you now know the quality or lack of quality related to the persons who are demanding that you entrust your lives and properties into their hands. There is very little difference between those demanding that you should not come out and vote on the 18th and those carrying out their orders. You, I know you are not citizens, but it's up to you to decide whether you want to become citizens. If you wish to become citizens, it begins with you getting out of your homes on the 18th, standing in line in defiance of whatever they might care to throw at us. Exercise your right to vote. When you have voted, defend your votes. Lagos State is particularly interesting because it is not one of those backwater places where we do not have sufficient capacity to expose whatever they have done. We will expose you if you decide you want to attack the people. You might believe that. I need people to understand that there will be consequences. If we cannot touch you in Nigeria because you own the courts and you own the police, we'll touch you internationally. There is a bearded clown that is busy threatening people. We'll touch you. We know you have second citizenship. All the international communities will write them to tell them who you are so that they will stop issuing you visas. You will live in the mess you are creating. All of us will live in it together. But the people themselves need to come out. If you don't come out, they win. It's not just about winning election. They win the battle of wit. If you receive the fear that they have sent into you and you ignore to come out, you legitimize the madness. It simply means you've given it up. They might as well be riding roughshod all over you. So, coming out is not about coming out to vote for Dele Farotimi's preferred candidate. No. It's about you coming out to vote for your own preferred candidate and insisting that the guidelines be adhered to. Because it might not be the same characters in 2027, but if you legitimize this madness in 2023, it becomes that much more difficult to dislodge in 2027. Men die, no matter how powerful they are, no matter how long they live. But nations also die, especially when they are not built on truthful, lawful institutions. The basis for the survival of any state is its capacity to protect its citizens and respect the expression of their sovereign will. 18th of March is one of those days when you can express that. Don't give it up. Thank you.